Welcome back, Lelanders, to some new content about the Intellivision Amico. Today, I couldn't hold back. I had to do an episode about what's been happening with the Amico haters. I know most people are thinking,
Leland, you're one of the worst Amico haters of all.
but no, what I'd like to say is I've started to notice a really weird trend with the Amico haters, outside of myself included. To be fair, I just wanted to clarify, I don't hate Tommy, I just hate the Amico. That's kind of the angle I'm coming at, and today's episode we'll be discussing the history of Nintendo and how it almost went bankrupt and the Switch saved it. Almost the same situation that's happening with the Intellivision Amico identically. And it's funny because the people that hated on the Nintendo Switch, all the Amico haters are repeating the almost identical things that they used to say. So I just want to clarify all that, the history of how Nintendo almost went bankrupt, and people seem to forget that. And we'll also be reviewing some of the Intellivision Amico haters and even some of the people that like the Amico. So we're going to review some of those channels. I'll just give my honest opinion about those. And sorry if people are going to get a little bit upset about this. I try not to hold back. And yeah, really, I'm going through a little bit of a sobriety binge this month, and when you see me sober, look out. All right, so where should we begin? All right, so one of my all-time favorite video game YouTubers right now just so happens to be Pat the NES Punk. I think him and Ian's show is one of the greatest shows about video games on YouTube, even one of the greatest shows on YouTube in general. And it's funny because I found out about it because of the Amico. And I don't always agree with what he has to say about it, but I think he's got a great show format. I used to kind of hate his show, thinking that he was really arrogant. Him and Ian were just full of themselves. But after watching every episode they've done for like over a year now, I've started to more appreciate what they're talking about. Similar to how a lot of people hate on Tommy and not knowing what he's talking about, but he really does have his foot in the door in the business longer than most people, right? So we should give him some credit for that. All right, so I was actually on Pat, the NES's Punk latest video that I was debating some people in the chat about how everyone's like bashing the Nintendo or the Amico, but they're using the exact same terminology, even word for word, exactly what people bash the Nintendo Switch for. So if people are like, we got into the debate, someone was telling me Nintendo's never almost been bankrupt. I'm like, really? Did you even see how the Nintendo Switch launched? If people aren't familiar, what is it? The Nintendo Switch launched in, let's bring it up here. Sorry if I bring up any boobs on the screen by accident. I swear I have no idea how those get there. Must be a virus on my computer. Anyway, so what we'll do is we'll bring up an article here from Game Skinny. I hope they don't mind me sharing some of their material. If they do, just let me know. I'll remove it. So anyways, Nintendo Switch, can it save the company? This is an article from when it launched. What was it, around 2017? I don't see the date handy. Maybe someone else sees the date there and I'm missing it. So what happened is Nintendo came out with the Nintendo Wii, huge success, and then came the Nintendo Wii U, and it freaking tanked and almost bankrupted the company. I know the critics will be saying, Leland,
Nintendo is so rich, they could never go bankrupt. They have infinite amounts of money.
I was thinking those haters or critics are arguing with me are somewhat right. Nintendo is like one of the wealthiest, biggest time video game creators. And as far as the risk of going bankrupt is the lowest, probably Nintendo ranks the top. They're the least likely to go bankrupt. But anyone who's followed the history of video games and companies knows in the beginning, you could come out and tank a few games and just release one good game, and that one good game would make up for all the other games they tanked on. But similar to what Tommy's been saying with the Amico, games have gotten so expensive and giant projects to make, they're like rivaling like blockbuster movies. They take like 5 years to make. I don't even know what's the budget for one of the biggest games. Someone could put it in the chat below. I think they're probably pushing billion-dollar game budgets. So really, a company, even like Nintendo, they're only one tank away from losing everything. And yeah, let's just bring up the history of the stock price of Nintendo. I think I have that handy here. Yeah, here it is. So if you look at the history of what's been happening with the Nintendo stock price over the years, let's get a look. You can see, what is it? This is what, a max year. So I'm not even sure what this is going back to. Maybe the 80s. So you can see it's had different spikes and falls depending on how the systems they release have been doing. I don't know, maybe some of these are when Game Boy's big success was. I don't know. But yeah, you can see that around 2017, they started reaching an all-time low tank rate. I can't remember how much Nintendo was losing. They were losing like 20% of their company's value every day for like a week. So it's like, yeah, once the Wii U came out and they started to tank, you'd be surprised. You could see billions of dollars just fly out the window if your stock price crashes down to zero. So that's why companies like this one, or articles like from this one, were saying, hey, can Nintendo be saved by the Switch? So what we'll say here is that they released some things and about the trailer, Nintendo Switch. Does the Switch make the same mistakes as Nintendo has made before? So yeah, Nintendo has actually had a history of consoles that did really good and ones that tanked. I'm pretty sure GameCube might have been also one of the ones that tanked, even though it was a freaking amazing system, right? I loved the GameCube, but it was competing with the PS2's DVD capability. I think that's one of the reasons it failed. Oh yeah, and then also Nintendo, a lot of the reasons they reached this all-time tanking point where they almost went bankrupt. If anyone remembers, Nintendo used to fight YouTubers. They hated anyone that used social media and shared information about Nintendo. And that was basically like taking a gun or a weapon of some type, which we're not supposed to talk on YouTube, and shooting themselves in the foot. So yeah, Nintendo continually shot themselves in the foot, punishing their fans for posting stuff on YouTube. So you know what a lot of fans did? They were just like, fuck it, man. Nintendo wants to be pricks and punish us for sharing stuff on social media about Nintendo. Fine, we'll just ignore Nintendo like they don't even exist. And you know what happened? Stock price, boom, almost to the point of bankrupt. So yeah, that's where they're getting this. They're like, holy crap, man. Nintendo was actually at the verge of bankruptcy. I don't think anyone really can debate that with actual facts. They can go on and on, oh, Nintendo is so rich, they can never go bankrupt. It doesn't matter how rich you are. It's like you could have trillions of dollars. If your company starts tanking and losing all the money, boom, you're finished. So yeah, so that's just one of the articles that I brought up here. Now, just to cover a little bit more about Pat the NES Punk, I know we're kissing his ass and making fun of him at the same time, but I try to approach this as a bit of a journalistic approach, not just like saying, oh, everything's this or everything's that. I'll present both sides. Hey, Jelton, how's it going, man? We'll be doing some more shows about ley lines in the very near future. We might even cover it a little bit today. We're going to be talking about the evil and sacrifice in the video game community. No, but anyways, one of the funny things I noticed is that Pat the NES Punk and Tommy are almost like mirror images of each other. Like when you look at Pat the NES Punk, he's basically the exact role that Tommy used to have when he was the host of Electric Playground. So I don't know if anyone used to watch Electric Playground. I think it was bigger in Canada than it was in the States. So maybe a lot of people are more familiar with how Tommy used to rip video game creators a lot back when he used to review games. And that's basically the role that Pat the NES Punk has now. So that's why I was kind of thinking that Pat and Tommy haven't really seen eye to eye like they do in the mirror, because they're basically trying to compete with each other for the exact same thing. So like, yeah, Tommy misses being the focus of the video game community, and Pat the NES Punk sort of looks badly at Tommy, possibly, just hypothetically speaking, because he was either a little bit jealous of him or he just really thinks he is better than him. And anyone that's talking highly about Tommy is like, No, not to totally crap on Pat, but one of the things that I've noticed, the whole jealousy thing, it's came out in the past before, even recently, with this whole WADA, the game grading. Now, to be fair to Pat, I agree with him that the games are really inflated, I think, more than they are worth. There's something shady going on, just guessing. I'm not an investment advisor. I know, because, like, Pat, he sounds like he's giving investment advice a lot. he's saying, oh, don't invest in these Mario games that are worth millions of dollars. You're going to lose everything. And his latest episode, he was even bashing, what is it? Someone sold a new copy of Mario 64 and it sold for less. Well, I just got to say, like, Pat, like, sure, games and auctions in general, there's spikes and lows and highs and lows. It's like a roller coaster, right? So I know, like, what is he going to say? Like, Pat will say this game doesn't deserve to be that much worth, and he's almost like cheering for joy as it crashes and all these people lose money. And I think that comes off as like a little bit sour. Like, I think what it is too, remember when Bitcoin first came out and there was a lot of people that had Bitcoins when it was worth like pennies or whatever? So they're like, oh, we had all these Bitcoins, they're worth pennies, and they got rid of them. And then all of a sudden, Bitcoin skyrocketed to near $100,000. And those people that squandered the little amounts that they had, they could have been like multi-millionaires, maybe even pushing billionaires if they would have kept it. So I think that's where Pat the NES Punk and Ian, they're very bitter and they're very sour about all these people making money off the investments of video games. Why? Because they had all those sealed copies of the games. They're literally game collectors. So they really missed the boat. Meanwhile, the boat was like right in front of them the whole time. So I think, yeah, rightfully so. If I was in that situation, I would also be pissed. But I think that's where that's coming off as. Like, Pat has this history of actually being very bitter and like making a big stink about things. But to be fair, I love it. It's like I was thinking too, if I was to invest in any Patreon money for a channel, I'm having rough health issues, so I'm trying to save as much money as I can to possibly cover future medical expenses. But man, if I wasn't in the gutter right now, one of the shows I'd be giving money to is Pat the NES Punk. So just to say I'm not totally hating on him, I agree with maybe 50% of what he and me say. I'm one of those people that agrees with people and hates what people say, but I'm not going to hold it against them because try to keep it a journalistic approach, right? So anyways, I was thinking the irony of this hatred towards the Switch. We'll cover it now with some of the other YouTubers. Might come back to Pat the NES Punk a little bit later. If he wants to put a response in the chat, all the power to him. No, I've sent in some video, on the Anchor FM calls, and they haven't aired on the show yet. So I know I disagree with Pat and Ian a lot in the chat, and if they've taken it personally, I'm sorry, guys. I'm just a very critical person. As you can tell, I probably don't really have many friends in real life because the people I care about most, I'm usually super critical of. So it's like NASA. Everyone's like, oh, you're a NASA hater. It's like, no, I don't hate NASA. I'm just their most critical fan. I rip the shit out of everything they're doing because a lot of it I think they can improve because I believe in them. I think they can do better. Right, so yeah, Nintendo Switch was failing and it also sucks. We'll get onto a YouTuber next who's like the poster child for this. Now, to be fair, I actually like Darius's channel a little bit. Not near as much as like Pat the NES's Punk show, but I don't know. I've had different addiction issues with weed currently and in the past as well. I'm actually doing a sobriety binge away from smoking weed, and 24 days in? I'm going to try to do 3 months. I managed to do Sober October last year, so now I'm like expanding it. I figure, hey, if I could do it for 1 month and I got so much shit done in my life and improved my life, that I should try to expand it beyond just 1 month. So yeah, that's where I am right now. So not to say that I hate weed and I hate, Darius's smoking joints all the time on the show. I actually vaporize, so I can't even stand smoking joints. I find it filled with ash. It'll give you a lot of toxic headaches. But anyways, it's so funny that Darius, he's always ripping the Amico, and half the time he's literally holding the Nintendo Switch. And why I find that so ironic, Nintendo Switch is basically everything everyone hated about that. It's like a console for kids. It's super underpowered. It's basically got trash software. Like, you look, what did Nintendo Switch launch with? People are like, Darius is going on, oh, the Amico has so many shitty games. Did you see what the Switch launched with? It launched with fucking Zelda. Like a game from 20 years ago. They barely improved on the graphics. Looks like it's something from the Wii or the Wii U. And yeah, there's an article here that says it. Let's bring it up. So just to prove it's not just me saying the Switch is underpowered. So yeah, here's an article The OLED Switch, let's make this bigger. That's what she said. What the OLED means for the future of the Switch. It's like, who is the Switch for? Where's the 4K support? So basically what they're hinting at, Nintendo Switch is basically a kid's console. It's for people that aren't real men, that don't have their own TV, and they need a tiny little screen to play it on. Either like a lot of the critics of the Switch, when in the trailer first launched, they're like, who the hell wants another Nintendo portable that's an adult? Like, if you're an adult, you just hook up your console to a TV. You're an adult. You have a fucking TV, right? Why the hell would you playing it on a small screen? The small screen is basically for kids that are stuck riding in the back of their parents' car. They don't have a screen with them, so they bring a Nintendo Switch. Or it's like someone who's like got a kid at home where they're not allowed to use the TV for their video games because their parents are watching it. So yeah, they got this little tiny screen and they play it on it. Or it's also for the beta males. You know, those guys that are dominated in relationships. We'll talk about Tommy again about that too. No, I'm just kidding. No, sometimes I notice what actually saved the Nintendo Switch is our society has a lot of beta males now, where they're getting dominated by the women in their relationships. So they don't really have access to the own TV that they own. It's like the woman is taking all the time and they're stuck playing on Nintendo Switch little screen because they don't have even their own TV. Now, and the funny thing about Switch, what do you hear Amico haters say? Like, oh God, the Amico, it's such ass backwards graphics. It's like from the past. Well, I got news for you. The Switch is like 720 resolution, right? You want to talk about ass backwards graphics that are from the past? Switch is basically the poster child for that. And it even says here, do they really need to upgrade it? No, they don't really need to upgrade it because a lot of people don't give a shit about graphics anymore. Graphics got so good that they're like photorealistic. And a lot of people are like, hey, arcade graphics are actually better. So that's what I was saying. Like when Darius is making fun of the Nintendo or the Amico for having crappy graphics, he's literally holding a Nintendo Switch with probably just as shitty as graphics, if not even worse. Oh yeah, and then Darius will be like, oh, the games, they suck. Yeah, I agree. The Amico games suck. Like, I don't like the Amico either. I wish they came up with a completely different Intellivision idea. We got possibly a new guest coming on who does like a new Intellivision idea, so praying that he comes on the show. But anyway, so that's what I was going to say is like, look at the Nintendo Switch. We're making fun of the game lineup. And what were the games? Launched with the old Zelda game. What was else? Skyrim. Skyrim's like a 10-year-old game. Who the hell wants to play 10-year-old games, right? And then, what was it? Pat the NES Punk? He's making fun of the Amico by saying that it has board games. Going, oh, you could just buy a board game at Toys R Us and play it at home. Well, you could if you're in Canada, because we still have Toys R Us. We're superior. No, I'm just kidding. No, what happens is look at the Switch. The launch title, it was Rock, Paper, Scissors. So I got news for you, Pat. It's like you're bashing the Amico, saying that it has games that you could just buy at Toys R Us. Look at the Switch. Sold like crazy, and one of the launch titles is a game that you only need your hands to play. You don't even have to go to Toys R Us to buy it. So I was like, dear God, you're bashing it, meanwhile kissing Nintendo's ass. No, to be fair, I've been a big Nintendo fan pretty much since I was a kid. I preferred Nintendo over Sega up until about the Dreamcast, and that's when I jumped on the Sega bandwagon. I couldn't really stand Nintendo after that, and I realized that Nintendo is a backstabber company. That's basically how Sony PlayStation was invented. Nintendo just kept backstabbing their fans, backstabbing their developers, backstabbing anyone making games for them. So then PlayStation's like, you know, screw you, Nintendo. We're going off and making our own console. Boom, created the PlayStation. So I shouldn't really hate on the Nintendo bashing that so much because, like, really, sometimes being a jackass actually creates greatness. Now, that's what I should get onto in the... Maybe we'll bring up this one next. Sorry, fans. I'll try to get to some chats from the questions section in a sec. So what I did is I brought an article that talks about... Let's make it bigger. That's what she said. Sorry, the lockdowns have been putting my mind in the gutter. I swear it has nothing to do with my regular personality or from watching Tommy every day while I was growing up. Right, so no, what is it? Tommy's been basically my hero since I've been a little kid. So it's like, yeah, like I know a lot of people are hating on the Amico and they hate on Tommy. I don't really agree with that at all. I love Tommy and I just can't stand the Amico. Wanted to make that point clear. All right, so anyways, when it comes to business people, you might have noticed a lot of the people that become CEOs of like successful companies, they got a whole bunch of dark personality traits. Stuff like, what does it say? Narcissism, Machiavellianism, or psychopathism. So I was like thinking, dear God, when people are bashing Tommy and saying, hey, he's got all these dark sides, well, I guess what? You would be surprised to find out a lot of successful companies, they actually have these dark traits in CEOs. And another example we can see this is the Ouya. The Ouya was a great system, had tons of money, tons of followers, but guess how it fell apart? They had a weak CEO. She was a super nice lady, I forget her name, like Jay Ehrman or something like that. Julia Ehrman, could be that. But anyways, she was a little bit on the weak side in the way that she was super nice and she was easy to take advantage of. So that's why I was thinking, like, she came out with all that money for developers if they wanted to make games. So developers realized this and took advantage of her by making a really quick, shitty game and then grabbing all the money and running. So Ouya ended up with like a whole bunch of low quality games and all the money that was crowdfunding just vanished. So when people say that Tommy's a prick or a jackass or has this big dark side, I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing for a company, especially if you want it to be successful. I know it's mean to say, but it is just reality, right? So let's see, we covered that. Let's go on to see what we got from the viewers quick. All right, so we said here, yeah, betas are all around. Not to make fun of the beta males. I know it's like a lot of my friends and family turned into beta males. It is its own type of way of life. I know it often deals with the veganism where you start getting really low hormones and all of like your body's chemistry gets way out of whack, the whole plant-based diet. But the government or the world elite that are trying to get everyone into these like low testosterone states is to make everyone docile so they're more easily controlled. And you got to hand it to Tommy. Even though he's been vegan, I'm not sure for how long, he still has that edge where you can tell he's still got some testosterone left. Yeah, his like hormones aren't completely at zero, I doubt. But no, and we'll get to veganism as well. I'm not going to completely bash that because there is a whole positive side to veganism that I'll touch on briefly. But for now, let's get on to some more of the other stuff. All right, so let's go to some of the other YouTubers. Sorry to talk so quick, but my uncle is like in bedridden. I got to carry him back and forth to the washroom, so I really don't have a lot of time. So we've just got a lot to cover in this video. So let's get to the next person. All right, this guy, I love his channel, and I have to say he is like one of the most critical, but also somewhat fair at the same time, almost like a journalistic approach. I heard that he used to or still was involved in a video game magazine, hoping I'm not getting his channels mixed up with someone else. No, he's given me a shout on in his channel a bunch of times, so I appreciate that. I know I was one of the first critics of the Amico because I volunteered for Video Games Live, and I started to see a lot of the same patterns where Video Games Live didn't do so well in some cities, like the one I was helping volunteer with. Mostly, well, no, I shouldn't say mostly, at least partly my fault for not getting enough flyers out and stuff. But yeah, that's where I started to see when you build a company on just volunteers. I was like, oh shit, is like this going to happen to Amico as well? So let's talk about Tony a little bit. I know he's debated Saggy Melons quite a bit on YouTube, so we'll get into that debate a little bit as well. So if I had to rank, the Geeks Getaway channel, I'd probably give him a 7 out of 10. Oh yeah, I forgot to rank Pat and Ian's channel. I'd give them a 9.5 out of 10. As much as I hate a lot of them, well, I shouldn't say I hate, I disagree with a lot of the things they say. I still love the channel. I love those guys. They do a great job. I think my life would be boring as hell unless I had their show to turn on once a day. So I really appreciate them doing that. And sorry if I'm so harsh and critical and disagreeing with chat. Like, I know I'm one of those people that just, I don't know, I'm very negative a lot sometimes. So that's why I try to be more positive. But damn, do I disagree with a lot of shit. Yeah, so if anyone hasn't subscribed to the Geek Getaway yet, I really encourage you to. His channel, I gave it a 7 out of 10. No, the thing that kind of gets me with the Geek Getaway is people that used to be involved with the video game community back when Tommy was on the reviews on the run, they probably got shit on a lot by Tommy. And what I mean is Tommy used to do reviews, right? So he would like take someone's work that they tried their whole life and invested like a ton of money, and then he would review it. Sometimes he'd give it a good review, and those game developers like, oh, thank God, Tommy, you didn't ruin our lives. But then occasionally, well, I shouldn't say occasionally, more often than not, game developers didn't live up to Tommy's expectations, and then he just shit on them, right? Like calling the game crap, making it really funny, making fun of the game. But I was thinking, dear God, man, all those developers that got shit on by Tommy, they probably saw their livelihoods just go down the toilet, right? Like if you're talking about like libel lawsuits and stuff, like, dear God, man, some of those game developers, they probably were so pissed that they wanted to sue Tommy for giving shitty reviews. But to be fair to Tommy, like I'm very pro free speech. So if you want to be critical and shit on people, even to the point of like borderline libel or whatever, it's like I think everyone should be able to voice their opinions, bad or for worse, or good or for worse. So anyways, I noticed the Geek Getaway, he tends to have that vibe as almost like he was one of the people that got spited by Tommy in the past. I can't say that he was or not. I have no idea. I don't even know his history other than I think I heard that he was related to video game magazines or something. So if people are wondering where all these Amico haters come from, there must be thousands, if not tens of thousands of people whose lives were ruined by Tommy's harsh reviews. So yeah, that's what I should get to next. Let's bring up this one. Oh yeah, and then the other thing before we move on from the Geek Getaway, he is somewhat fair. He's had, the Intellivision, other company members on to discuss it, and he kept it very civil. I know his conversations with Saggy Melons kind of went on a roller coaster of like keeping it civil and then getting really upset and stuff. So I know I freak out all the time too. So I take things too personally sometimes. Who doesn't? We're all human, right? So anyways, yeah, he's got some more videos on his channel about crap that's been going on with Amico. And he likes to make fun of Tommy a lot to the point where he's like calling him a liar and all this stuff. And it's like, I know I've made fun of Tommy as well, but like really, I think sometimes he takes it too far. And yeah, when it came time to, the Geek Getaway or Tony investing in the Amico, I almost get the vibe where he thinks that it could succeed, and he's so worried that he actually bought that, the Amico prototype, because he thinks it will actually be a rare collector. I know he said that he bought it to give money to this charity, and that's probably 99% of why he did it. But I kind of wonder if there's like a 1% chance that he thinks the shell is actually going to be worth like $1 million in the future. So that's one of the reasons why I think that he bought it. I'm just guessing, don't know. No, and the other thing I noticed with Tony is one of the vibes he sort of gives off is like, oh, I criticized this first, or I found out about this information first. And it comes off as like very arrogant. So it's like, I don't know, if you ever wanted to get his ranking a little bit higher up in the channel from me, I would probably put him at an 8 or 9 if he wasn't like always like, I did this first, I did it. It sounds very, or bragging about how many subs each channel has. Like when I watch a channel, I don't really care if they have 2 subscribers or 1,000 or 1,000,000. I try to just take it as base, treat everyone as equal. I don't care if they're like a super celebrity or not. Like I know Darius, I think his channel is doing pretty good in subs right now, but I don't really judge that as like the metric of success. Because there's a lot of really good channels out there that almost have no subs, and there's channels with like 1,000 subs that suck. Like why? Nah, I shouldn't be so critical of myself, but I'm one of my own worst critics. Alright, so let's go on. Geek Getaway. Oh yeah, the other thing we were going to talk about, because we got onto critics, let's do this one next. I'm changing the order of the slides a bit. That's just how I roll. Alright, so this one is the food critic thing. So you notice like sometimes people make a career off being critical on stuff. Like, oh, I'll be the biggest food critic. I'll be the biggest like bashing McDonald's guy. I'll bash this restaurant. I'll bash this type of food. So this is basically what was happening with Tommy. He became the world's like top ranked video game basher. And you know what that happens? What happens if one of these chefs was bashing, or all these people were bashing different chefs, bashing different foods, and all of a sudden they decided to become a chef and open a restaurant. Can you imagine like how many critical people that got bashed by them in the past come and eat at their restaurant and be like, hey, remember when you bashed me? Your restaurant is fucking shit, right? So that's where I think a lot of the hatred is coming from the Amico. It's sort of like Tommy. He was like the critic, right? Now that he's coming out with his own product that he used to be critical of, everyone's raised the bar. Maybe not everyone. Like, there's definitely people ass kissing. Like, shouldn't mention any names. We'll get to an ass kisser episode later, maybe. We'll leave the ass kissing out of it for now. So anyways, yeah, so that's what I was thinking. The bar got raised so high by the critics because, yeah, Tommy's been a critic his whole life, well, in the Electric Playground days. So people are like raised the bar of how high they expect the Amico to do. And yeah, and just to be clarifying too, one of the things where I'm saying Nintendo Switch sucks, it also sold well. So that's why I'm thinking, guys, if we're going to keep making fun of everything that the Nintendo Switch did that's the same as the Amico, don't forget, just because Nintendo Switch had shitty games, just because it was overpriced, underpowered, it still sold like crazy, right? So that's what I'm thinking. Like, I agree with everyone who hates the Amico. I don't like the idea of it. I wish it was an online system. I wish it had like more like open source, so people could just start developing games and we could get tons of games on the system. Even if it flooded the market with shitty games, at least we'd have some good ones, right? So that's just what I'm saying. Like, I don't want to keep saying that I hate the Amico completely. I think it has some potential. I would just make some drastic changes. And that's just my opinion. Like I was saying before, Tommy knows a hell of a lot more about video games than I do. I'm just one of his fans, right? I'm just like not in the industry, watching it from outside the box. So Tommy's had his foot in the box, and if anyone was willing, or that I could bet on that would prove me wrong, it'd be Tommy. Because, yeah, when he says that he has, like, the background and he knows a lot more than other people do about video games, just like Pat and Ian, I think they're both right. These guys do know a lot. They've had their foot in the door for quite a long time, more than even doing it professional, way more than us amateurs, right? All right, so losing my voice a little bit, but we'll try to get on to some more channels. Let's review Saggy's channel next. Now, who doesn't like saggy melons, right? No, I mean the channel. Not sucking stuff. But anyways, no, I've got a shout out from Saggy Melons a few times tuning into her live streams. She strikes me as a super nice person, and I like how she actually stood up for Tommy as the person. Like, yeah, if you want to bash the Intellivision Amico, blah, 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 but all this hatred towards Tommy is really taking it too far. So that's where I agree with her channel on that. It's like, come on, guys. Yeah, sure, we can bash the Amico, but when we start making it personal attacks against Tommy, that does seem like it's going too far. No, I'm not just trying to ass-kiss Saggy as well. I know a lot of guys, when they see a female YouTuber or a game person, they just run to her like she's gold or something, but no, I like Saggy's other videos where she's doing stuff on the Fan Expo conventions. That's actually where I first met Tommy, was at a Fan Expo convention. And, oh yeah, if anyone likes the stories about how Tommy has a dark side, so we won't just be kissing Tommy's ass this whole episode. We'll try to keep it impartial, cover the good and bad. It was actually the first time I met Tommy at a convention, a Fan Expo convention, like Saggy Melons likes to talk about, is one of my friends, Jake, who actually does the intro song for my channel. He was mixing chip tunes. You know how people go and they busk on the street and they try to get like people to throw money in a can, and he plays music? That's actually where I first heard Jake. I was at a Fan Expo and he was in the line. So he was like next to the line playing chiptune music. So the chiptune music was really good. It was the first time I'd ever heard chiptunes, and he was out there mixing it on a Game Boy live. Everyone's like throwing in tons of money for him. I wish I would have gave him some money that day, but Fan Expo completely tapped me out. That's usually when I go to Fan Expo. I got zero spending money because I just blow it all trying to even get to Toronto and get the hotel and get some booze money for the after parties. But anyways, yeah, so this is how I came across the dark side of Tommy when I first met him. I think what it was Tommy was walking into the convention and he had like the staff pass. So when you have a booth at the convention or you're a celebrity, you don't have to wait in line. You can just walk to the front of the line, go right in. So as he was walking into the convention, he walked past Jake, the guy doing the chip tunes on the street, and I couldn't tell if he liked it or didn't like it, but then he left and went in the convention. So what happened is I went into the convention and I went to go see the show that Tommy was doing. I think he was at the convention promoting Video Games Live. And lo and behold, what is one of the first things he said? Well, it might have been in the middle of presentation. I can't even remember now. But when he was up on stage, guess what he started doing? He showed his dark side. He started just ripping my friend Jake. He's like, hey, man, I heard some guy that was like playing music outside and it was just complete garbage. He's like, all these beeps and bloops. Who the hell would want to listen to chip tunes, right? I was like, dear God, man, I never expected that, right? I should have in hindsight, because I was like, yeah, Tommy's been a critic for so many years that obviously has a critical side. So, yeah, he just ripped the shit out of my friend Jake's music. And thank God, like Jake, I think, was a big Tommy fan too, but he was still outside busking because he didn't come in to actually see Tommy's presentation. So he didn't hear it in person. And I don't know even if I told him that Tommy was up on the stage ripping him. But yeah, that's when I first started to realize, holy shit, man, Tommy has a really dark side. But the same thing with those CEOs, right? If you want a successful CEO, they need a dark side or they're not going to be successful. Sad but true. So I know Saggy Melons has gotten a lot of criticism over the past few months or weeks or whatever it is about making videos defending Tommy and defending the Amico. So I'd just like to give a shout out to her and like, sorry, well, I shouldn't be saying sorry, but yeah, I feel bad for all the harsh criticism she's taken. I know I make a lot of extremely controversial videos as well. Like I was telling the viewers, I also do videos about human sacrifice. So yeah, you can imagine I get a lot of people shitting on my work and disliking it, even saying really mean things that they don't want me around and stuff. So yeah, I can definitely relate to that. Like I study ancient mysteries. I'm not actually into human sacrifice. I just like to study it. Sort of like, you know, how some people study, murder mysteries and read murder novels. I like research the ancient history of sacrifice and the gravity well lines or ley lines that link all the different attacks. Places like the September 11th attacks all took place on one straight line. Boston Airport, the 9/11 Twin Towers, the Pentagon, they're all on like one straight line, and it's the ancient sacrifice line that connects, Stonehenge to Mexico. It also connects Mars's biggest pyramids or volcanoes. So yeah, I do a lot of controversial stuff. So hey, shout out to Saggy Melons. I appreciate her. Like, she takes both sides of the argument. She interviews people like Tony and stuff, or maybe they interviewed each other. I haven't even watched them all. But so yeah, shout out to her. I give her channel probably, let's rank her channel. I'll give it a 9, just below Pat and Ian's channel. I think Pat and Ian, they grew on me a little bit more. Even though Saggy Melons, I probably should like her more because she's a hot babe. But no, I'll give the higher ranking to Pat and Ian. I don't want to be too sexist. All right, so a big shout out to Saggy Melons. Oh yeah, Rich in Review Tech. She did a little bit video about him and how he talked about the Amico. I haven't actually watched that one yet, but I did watch the actual Review Tech one, like him actually doing the video. And I'd say he was about maybe an 8. He was a little bit too ass-kissing at the beginning, and then maybe at the end he got a little bit too harsh. But at least he covers a little bit of the both sides, so we'll rank him as an 8. I know he's trying to do the weight loss thing, and I've been trying to do it as well. My viewers can know my face used to be like burst out like a pumpkin just like a month ago. But since I've done the sober September, I've managed to lose, 25 pounds. And I think I got halfway to my goal. So big shout out to Rich at Review Tech. Hopefully he can manage to improve his weight loss as well. Maybe he has already and it hasn't really shown in his face, or he hasn't talking about it. But yeah, best of luck to him, because I know if you put on too much weight, you can definitely like get into health problems. We'll be covering that a little bit in future as well. Yeah, the health problems. That's where the veganism ties in as well. All right, so let's see. Gen X Gamer. Yeah, let's cover his channel next. All right, Gen X Gamer. He's another person who does content sort of hating and liking on the Amico. And I have to give his channel a high rank as well. Let's give him an 8 as well. even though like he's not one of the biggest YouTubers, he's got hardly any subs compared to the people that aren't as balanced as him. But I like his balanced approach. He really showed some bad points about the Amico and some good points. So shout out to him. The only thing that hit me the wrong way when it came to Generation X Gamer is his hatred towards, people on YouTube that collect money, like tippers. What does he call them? E-beggars or whatever? No, for me, that kind of hit me like in the gut, because I'm thinking like a lot of people are in rough situations in life. I know like he says like, oh, I have a job and I do YouTube, so let's shit on all the people that collect money for e-begging or whatever. But then I kind of thought of my situation, other people's. Like sometimes people really hit rock bottom health-wise, and they're not really able to make a whole shitload of money just going to a regular job. And you think about people that do Uber, or they do taxi work, or they do like food delivery in general, pizza delivery guy. There's a lot of people that are out there begging for tips, right? And how it works is when you provide a service, sometimes people tip for that service. And YouTube, believe it or not, is an actual service. Like people aren't like beating us over the head with a crowbar saying go to work and make YouTube videos and paying them. A lot of cases, the only revenue people are getting is they're doing all this, providing a service for their own free time. And yeah, I don't have any problems with people that want to try to e-beg, because dear God, man, we're in a cutthroat society. Some people really can't get by any other way. Who knows? Maybe some people are milking it and shouldn't. They could be like rich and then trying to beg at the same time. Although I have seen a lot of people that are rich and beg at the same time actually give it to charity after anyways. So that's what I'm just saying. If I wanted to improve on the ranking for Gen X Gamer, I'd kind of cool it on the whole bashing e-beggar thing. I know it's like some people might agree with it. Like, hey, people shouldn't be begging on YouTube and stuff. But yeah, there are some people that take the begging too far. Like they'll be doing a live stream and they'll be like, hey guys, unless someone super chats, I'm not going to continue this live stream. So yeah, that's where I think it does kind of go too far sometimes. Oh yeah, and the same thing with the Amico. You know how the Amico, one of the main principles is getting rid of the in-game purchases? That reminds me of how Gen X Gamer bashes the tipping. Like in-game purchases are basically tipping the game extra after you've already bought it. So what I agree with them in a point is that like these in-game purchases sometimes take it too far. But we're not going to throw out the whole baby with the bathwater. What I think what should happen is they should just change the in-app purchases. So maybe make it less predatory, where maybe you could actually, I don't know, do something with the credit card system so that kids really can't run up their parents' credit cards, and then the game developers just laugh because they're like, haha, we took advantage of those parents' credit cards. So yeah, there's definitely some problems with in-game purchases, but I was very, very disappointed to hear that Amico was steering clear of it altogether, like just throwing the whole baby out with the bathwater. So what I was thinking what Amico could do, or what I would do, is just have like some really like non-game affecting in-app purchases, like new skins, like a new hat, maybe some new music in track games that you could purchase. Like, yeah, can you imagine you're playing an Amico game and then there's like a little thing, hey, do you want the latest Video Games Live soundtrack to play while you're playing this game? Just donate $1 and now you'll have a whole ton of new music. Or even open up a developer system where people could generate their own levels for the Amico. Like, you know how Amico has like all these great classic games, like what are the Moon Patrol game? I was thinking, what happens if Amico, instead of just releasing Moon Patrol the way it is, they released like a Moon Patrol level editor, sort of like how Mario Maker, you can make your own levels, and then have it so video game kids at home can create their own Moon Patrol levels, upload it to the Amico store, like officially. People can play those levels for free, but they could also tip. So that's one of the things I realized as a gamer when I was a kid growing up. I always dreamed that there'd be some way to make income by playing video games. So that's where I think Amico could really like dominate the industry, start to make level editors, releasing it to people, and just have it on a tip-based system. So everyone can actually create levels and play them on the Amico, and all for free or with the purchase of Moon Patrol, but they have the option of tipping. So someone would be like, oh, I played this level like 1,000 times. Maybe I should really like donate $1 to the kid who created it, right? So I know that's like opening a whole can of worms about how Amico could improve and how Generation X gamer criticism actually somewhat is useful because it points out some of the flaws with e-begging. And I just don't really agree with how he thinks we should throw it all in the trash or dump the whole baby with the bathwater. I think we could improve on it. All right, so yeah, that was it for Gen X gamer. Did I give him a ranking? I think it was a 7.5 or an 8. Oh yeah, the Dreamcast. Yeah, I love the Dreamcast. That was my all-time favorite console. Sega just keeps hinting that they're going to release a new Dreamcast or a new Sega console. I was thinking, please to God, do not release another tablet system. I know there's like a Sega leak that happened and they showed like a tablet they're working on. I was like, no, not another freaking Nintendo Switch. So yeah, that was one of the things. Let's look at the stock price for Nintendo again. If anyone's noticed, Nintendo's stock price, like recently, has started to do another one of those tanks. And if you're wondering what caused this tank, is that, what is it, the Steam Deck or a Valve portable tablet thing? People are starting to realize, guys, we're playing a Nintendo Switch tablet, highly underpowered. It's got really old and outdated games. And yeah, so when that announcement was made, Nintendo has started to free fall again. So I'm not saying that they're going to free fall all the way down to like the Wii U point where they're on the verge of bankruptcy again. But I'm pretty sure Nintendo's taken note of this and they're like, hey guys, we got to get another console out and quick. Because yeah, once that Valve Steam Deck just dominates the market, a lot of even the Nintendo fanboys that keep kissing Nintendo's ass, saying that it's the greatest thing ever, they're going to realize, hey man, we've been had. This is like a game system for kids. No, that was the funny thing too. You know how like the lockdown sort of increased the price of Nintendo Switch on the used market? Well, I'll go bring back Darius up again. What happened was before the Nintendo Switch launched, or after it launched, before the lockdowns. Before the lockdowns, I opened up my local newspaper, like, you know, Kijiji or Craigslist or whatever you got in your region. It was flooded with just Nintendo Switches, and guess what all the reviews said? I'm selling my Nintendo Switch for like $100 with the games. Why? Because I bought it after listening to all the hype, but when I started playing it, I was like, dear God, this is an old crappy system, 10-year-old games that I don't even like. So a lot of people are just dumping their Nintendo Switches on the market, on the used market. But I don't know, I guess the lockdowns and everything, everyone needed more video games. So all of a sudden the price skyrocketed again back to like normal rates. So I don't know if anyone else noticed that. Switch was like already on the verge of collapse even before the lockdowns began. But yeah, we'll see what happens. When that Valve Steam Deck comes out, how many of those used Switches are going to flood the market again? Only time will tell. Yeah, Power Stone. That's a good point one of the viewers brings up. The Sega console, if they released a new Sega, all they'd have to do is like call it Dreamcast 2 or whatever name they want to give it. Doesn't even really matter. Let's call it the Sega Next Generation Console. What they got to do is come up with a new Dreamcast controller. Fuck, I don't have my controller here. But what they also can do, come out with a new VMU. So instead of like a shitty screen, shitty batteries, make an actual modern update to this one. And they could even do a cell phone out of it. Like you can see, these VMUs are pretty tanky, right? Very thick. Thick like I used to be a month ago. No, just kidding. But yeah, so all you got to do, release a new console, make an updated VMU, have it flip open. You can make it a cell phone or a gaming console with these little pads and stuff, and an updated screen. So like, yeah, Sega, oh my God, release a new console, release a new controller with 2 analogs, update the VMU, put a hard drive in the console so that you can just download games from the Sega store. And lo and behold, one of the games that would just carry the new console is Power Stone. If anyone hasn't played Power Stone before, it's basically the, what would you call it? One of those battle royale games, sort of like Smash Brothers. I know that was a weird debate. Anyone hear the Smash Brothers debate? Tommy and Vic did an episode where they just ripped Smash Brothers and called it a really shitty game. And then Tommy was in the message board arguing that that never happened. And then someone actually posted the clip from Electric Playground. Could be a deep fake, but I'm pretty sure I remember it too because I agreed with it. I don't really like Smash Brothers either. Why? Because I played Power Stone. And Power Stone was Sega's version of a battle royale. And it was way better than Melee. Like, it was actually super fun and very technical. Wasn't just a button masher. You actually had to know what you were doing to win in Power Stone. So yeah, if they came out with a new Power Stone game, maybe themed some of the characters and made it like Smash Brothers, where they took the best of Sega characters, put them all in this giant Power Stone arena. I don't know. Is Power Stone an actual Sega developed title? Maybe it was another company that made them. So that could be a little bit difficult to bring in the other Sega franchises. But yeah, that's one that I think could carry the console. And another game that I think could carry the console is, what is it? Phantasy Star Online. Phantasy Star Online is still kicking ass. So if they came out with a Dreamcast 2 and made it launch as like the Phantasy Star edition, where it's like your new Sega console was just pimped out in Phantasy Star, holy shit, would it ever sell good? Especially in Asia, right? Oh yeah, that was one of the things I wanted to get on about the Amico haters. They keep talking about how the Amico has such bad press in North America, and that means it's going to tank in sales. But what I think they forget is that Tommy, he's got a huge following in Asia, like China, Japan, all over Asia. And yeah, I'm pretty sure a lot of those people haven't heard anything about the Amico haters. Like, not to make fun of it at all, but there is like a bit of a language barrier between Asia and North America. So unless someone's making videos in Chinese or Japanese, probably a lot of people there don't even watch it, right? So they haven't even heard of any of this Amico crap or haters. So yeah, if I was to guess how well the Amico is going to sell in Japan or China or Korea or something like that, I think you're looking at like you're going to dominate at least, like, let's say, if I had to guess if Amico was going to sell as many as, I think it'll beat the GameCube and Dreamcast in sales if they can actually keep up with production. I know there's a lot of production issues and a lot of people have been making fun of that, and a lot of it is based in facts. So hopefully all that production stuff gets sorted out. I know as like someone who orders mass products from China sometimes, I notice that the shipping crate price has gone way up like 10 times. So when Tommy says that the console is like not really feasible to launch right now because it's too expensive to produce, yeah, I could definitely see that. But I'm just going to say with that is, yeah, Tommy, when people are making fun of the Amico and saying that it's not going to sell, even if it tanks in North America, if he gets it on the shelves in Brazil, shouldn't say Brazil, because unless they make it in Brazil, they won't sell it. But yeah, if it sells well in Asia, or if it sells well in Europe, or if it sells well in other countries, the entire video game market is not dependent on what sells in North America. I know it helps because North America is a pretty big market too, and I really think a lot of the haters are overestimating how many people actually hate Amico. I think there's a lot of people like me that even though they like don't like the Amico so much, they still like Tommy and would probably buy it to support it. I actually wanted to invest in the Amico, and I went to the investment page. I was even going to make a big investment, but it turns out that Amico is banned in my province. We weren't allowed to invest in it. So I don't know why the government bans investing in it, but it's pretty weird. So yeah, that's what happened with me in that. So just to clarify, I haven't invested in Amico. I wanted to, but I was not able to. I know it's what our province, what they sometimes do is ban casinos as well. Every casino except for the government's casino. So maybe that was something to do with it. They wanted us to invest in the government instead. So they're just cutting off all the access to outside investors, which kind of sucks. I really wish we didn't have so much government control. Oh yeah, that was one of the things that I argue with Pat, the NES punk, a lot, is they bring a lot of politics into their show, like on, CU podcast, trying to force everyone to take these and stuff. I just like to clarify, like, I've known people's lives that were ruined by taking this. There's a lot of people in my province that have died from it, and I'm really not going to buy into the idea that it's super safe, other than that I have to agree with what the World Health Organization says. So whatever they say, I 100% agree with. And anything that I just said before that, I was just joking. All right, so anyways, Yeah, and when it comes to voting too, I know Pat and Ian, and they take it into like the whole Trump bashing thing. And to be fair, I used to like Trump because he did so well in the NASA program, getting their act back together, getting them back to the moon. Then I found out it's tied to some horrible human sacrifice stuff, and that's why NASA wasn't going back. So I don't know. That's going to be some wild stuff that happens once China and the U.S. returns. We're going to start seeing some demonic sacrifice stuff like we've never seen before. But anyways, to make fun of Pat and Ian about how they bring politics in too much. Sorry, guys. I know I argued a lot about politics, so I know I take the arguments too far sometimes. You can tell. No, I just don't agree that everyone should have voted in Biden just because they hated Trump so much. Because look at the disasters Biden's caused. He's already caused more war in like a few months in office than Trump's entire term. I don't know, the civilian casualties must be millions more already. So it's pretty much a shit show disaster when people voted in Biden just because they hated Trump so much. But I wasn't really the biggest fan of Trump by the end with the whole Operation Warp Speed. So I kind of agree with Pat and Ian in a way. I kind of turned on Trump at the end. But yeah, I would definitely never vote to re-elect him. He's just going to push more of these into people, unless it's okay with the World Health Organization. All right, so the ironing for Pat and Ian. Food critics. Oh yeah, speaking of the food critics thing, let's bring up one of my last slides for the show. We're almost at the hour mark, and I'm getting tired of talking as fast as I can. So one nice thing about when you become like sober from weed for a while, you stop talking so slow and you can start talking like super fast. So sorry if I talk way too fast. It's a little bit of the chemical imbalance. Yeah, so speaking about chemical imbalances, I know like veganism is the greatest thing ever for trying to help animals on one side of the coin. And then you look at the other side of the coin, it's like the worst disaster that's ever happened to animal rights ever. And just to clarify what I mean by that, is the vegan diet, I've seen it with my friends and family who tried it. They get really sick and end up in the hospital unless you start taking supplements. Why? Because the vegan diet is highly deficient in almost every vital nutrient. Like you name it. Like if you want the stuff that keeps your hair in. Speaking of, I should have ate more fish when I was growing up. No. But like, yeah, the vegan diet is like disastrous for a lot of people. It fucks with your brain, starts making it so you can't concentrate on stuff. And yeah, I've even tried veganism for a while, so I'm actually speaking from experience. Like it ruined my health like super bad. And not to be totally shitting on veganism, because I took the opposite to the extreme, even worse, where I stopped eating plants and switched to the carnivore diet, and that actually had an even worse effect on me. So I'm not trying to say veganism or the carnivore way is the way. I've kind of balanced out where I'm like, shit, I could have just started eating a balanced diet and not ran into all these problems that veganism and carnivore can start causing like a roller coaster of imbalances. No, my health has actually taken a bad turn for the worse, where I started like getting blood coming out of digestive parts that shouldn't be. And it's been going on for like 2 years, and I'm going in for a colonoscopy. So yeah, so just beware if you're going to go the carnivore route. Some people say it can cause stomach cancer. And if anyone wants to help me, I don't want to be an e-beggar. So if you don't want to, as much as I already am, so if you can't help out monetarily and you just want to give me some prayers for my colonoscopy, really appreciate it. It's coming up in the middle of October. And that's where I was kind of getting at too, is when we're all in this together, like this veganism debate or the video game debate, it's all like just being humans, right? And we got to remember that like we're all in this fight together, and we shouldn't be like bashing on each other. We should try to coexist a little bit more harmonically just to make everything go over smoothly. If you start doing the roller coasters of one or the other, it's a wild ride. I know it seems entertaining, can get your blood rushing, but dear God, once you're shitting blood every day for 2 years, it's like, yeah, it might be better to remain like more balanced, right? So no, and then one thing that I would argue with veganism with helping the animals is I started to realize is those supplements you need to take in order to like balance out the veganism, they're disastrous to like animal life. And especially when you take into fact, like a hunter, especially in Canada, we can go hunting, kill a moose or kill an elk, some sort of big creature, take it to a butcher, and he'll fill your entire freezer with like steaks and all these different animal products. So you're really looking at one animal death for a whole year's worth of food. So you want to compare that to like a bottle of supplements. Like even one bottle of supplements that you got to take for a month to make up for the deficiencies you get from not eating animals. Those bottles probably kill like 1,000 animals by the time it gets from China to here. So that's where I'm really skeptical about the whole green idea that sure, it looks better on the surface. You don't see a slaughterhouse. You're like, oh, I'm helping animals. But you kind of got to look at it in the long run, right? Like how many animals are dying so I can get these supplements? Is it actually better in the long run? So I don't know. That's what I was thinking about the whole debate with the Amico haters. Yeah, guys, we're all people that love video games, or we wouldn't even be talking about Amico. So we do have a lot in common, and we should be able to work out a lot of these problems. I think the people that are hating on the Amico for reasons like, oh, it's got shitty games, oh, it's underpowered, oh, it's not the latest technology. Well, I got news for you. That's also what happened with the Switch, and it saved Nintendo's ass. So that's what I was saying with another person. Another thing Nintendo and the Amico have in common is they're both kind of on the rocky grounds every time they come out with a new console where it could make or break the company. So I don't know. I shouldn't be praying, but I'm hoping that Tommy is successful and television continues, because I think he has real potential to make the best system ever. And maybe the Amico is just a stepping stone in that direction. Let's hope. Like, you know what I would have really liked to see from Amico? A game console made for gamers. Like I was saying with like the level generator idea, gamers actually being able to make games for the Amico and making money off of it, and do it like the Apple Store, where people do a tip for the level creation, and part of that tip goes to Intellivision for hosting all this shit. And that was the one thing too. I would have loved to see the Intellivision have online play, and people debated why the Amico doesn't have online play. Is it just too technically difficult? And I think what it happened is those damn vegan restrictions. You know how the vegan diet is like very restrictive? Well, that's kind of the philosophy we see bleeding over, no pun intended, into the Amico. Like I read it somewhere where they want to make Amico the most vegan console out there, that it's filled with restrictions. So I don't really love restrictions. I'm more of like an open, free speech, blah, blah, blah. Everything people can get away with without... Yeah, it's the whole thing with the whole copyright industry too. I don't know if anyone's noticed that in America, we got the whole copyright system, which was inherited by the royal families. And they instituted it so that they could suppress little people from overthrowing them, so that they couldn't make enough money to like overturn the government or overturn the royal families. So this is where the entire copyright system comes in. So that's not why I'm not a very big fan of it. I know that's like the communist way of doing things. Like China, you look at China, how are they succeeding so well in the world? They pretty much abolished the copyright. So if anyone can make a version of a product better than the original creator, they can just do it and sell it, and they dominate. So I don't know if Tommy can find some way to make the Amico maybe more communist. I know a lot of people hate communism. I think it's the same thing. Communism's got its good points and its bad points. One of the good points of communism I like is being able to share everything with people. And I think that's the future of video gaming. Like if we start getting people creating levels with giant level editors, even like for like Moon Patrol or maybe breakout games or maybe even Pong type games, if we can start seeing more level creators, more tipping into the community itself, like dear God, look how many of those gamers mod computer games. They make amazing mods, and then half the times the companies fight them about it. So it's like, why would you fight people? Like Nintendo, remember how they fight the guy that made that really good Metroid game? I know maybe he was selling copies of the Metroid game and not giving a cut to Nintendo or whatever it was, but still, I think we got to look in the direction of rewarding fans, rewarding their creations, not limiting them. That's the thing too. Amico tries to sell their ideas to like dumb kids, but I think what they're forgetting is kids are actually smarter than us in most cases. So if we gave kids like a level editor, they would probably make better levels than any of these old guys with thousands of years of video game experience. I bet you those kids would make better games. So yeah, that's where I'm worried about. Like Amico kind of treats kids as dumb, where we shouldn't be. We should be like, hey kids, you're smarter than us. Here's the tools, go at it, right? Yeah, so sorry for making this episode super long. I was going to try to keep it under an hour. I got to go carry my uncle to the washroom, or there's going to be a horrible mess to clean up. And really, I'm praying for my health in the meantime, too. So if anyone's able to help, not monetarily, but just give me a few prayers for that, really appreciate it. I know Tommy with his Amico, his sister had some bad health issues and she died young as well. So rest in peace to her. And yeah, anyone else that's going through these lockdown issues. I know I've argued with Pat and Ian about the lockdowns as well. I just look at the lockdowns effect of my friends and family. I've lost family members who miss cancer screenings. My family actually has a bad history of stomach cancer already before I started becoming a carnivore and possibly making it worse. So yeah, some of them died when it came to the lockdowns. We couldn't get into the cancer screenings. They told us the hospitals were overflowing with dead bodies. Turns out the hospitals were empty and my family should still be alive, but we can thank the lockdowns for their death. So yeah, when I'm arguing against the lockdowns, I'm not doing it because I want to go party with hot babes as much as I do. But yeah, the main reason I'm looking at it is lockdowns are fucking killing people, right? You look how many people have starved to death. Speaking about the diet stuff, starvation drastically increased after the lockdowns because the price of food and everything started skyrocketing. A lot of people that couldn't afford it already were just up shit's creek without a paddle. So yeah, we got to be really careful when it comes to like taking away human rights too. Because when you look at the history of the awful shit that happened in World War II, it started off by just taking human rights away from these people, then from these people, then from these, and as the list kept going on and on and on, eventually it was everyone's human rights out the fucking window, right? So you really got to be careful when you're taking that chain of events too far. Not to mention the Tunguskini experiments. Like, I'm a person who researches history. Fucking government was inflicting people with syphilis and making them suffer. And that wasn't like hundreds of years ago. That was just in the 70s. So that's the same decade I was born in, right? So dear God, if people are a little bit not trusting the government because they worked with CDC to poison people on purpose, it's happened just recently. So, like, God, that's another reason why I'm like, we shouldn't hand over all of our control of our lives to a government that was just killing us a couple decades ago. Like, God's sakes, look at the residential school systems, all the other stuff. They're like, oh, the government's terrible. It's like, well, dear God, if the government's that terrible, why the hell are we giving them control, complete control over what's being injected into us? I just have to say I agree with the whole World Health Organization. If that's what they agree with, then I have no choice but to agree. Yeah, the Power Stone game. Yeah, so thanks, Jelton, for joining in the chat. I know it's a kind of a weird time to stream, but a lot of people are still at work. I was going to be at work today, but I got the day off, and I was just arguing with so many people about the history of Nintendo. I thought I'd fill some people in about it. Yeah, and if anyone's upset that I showed pictures of their channels and gave a shout out, just let me know and I'll try to edit those parts out. I know if Tommy takes the vegan criticism too much to heart, then yeah, let me know and I'll try to take that, or maybe just take the whole episode down. I know I've said so many mean things about the Amico, so I figured today I would just try to clarify, like, as much as I hate Amico, I don't hate Tommy, just to make that clear. All right, so thanks, everyone. I know Tommy's not a perfect person. Everyone's got a good side and a dark side. I definitely got one of the darkest sides around. A freaking expert on researching human sacrifice, for shit's sakes. Not that I actually am into it. I just research it. Clarify it again. All right, so thanks, everyone. And if anyone wants to help me out in a monetary way and they don't have any money to support e-beggars and they want to find some ways to raise money for their own channels, stay tuned. We'll get to my affiliate links. So if everyone else wants to tune out now, they're not into the e-begging, just tune out now. The presentation, I believe, is over. Unless someone has more information or questions in the chat, just let me know. But I'm losing my voice, so we got to get going. All right, let's go to the patrons list. All right, so thanks everyone on my patrons list. Suki, Dan, Jim, Ray, Travis, everyone at Patreon. Really appreciate it. Let's go to the other one. Oh yeah, so we did cover the Patreon. Society 6, finishing quick is my specialty. It's a saying that comes on t-shirts and bed sheets, both popular with the ladies. I know this video took forever, so I do contradict myself all the time. Right, Hideout TV. The one thing I'm consistent on is I still hate the Amico, but I like Tommy, right? Right, so Hideout TV, it'll pay you to watch videos. Now, one of the reasons I'd like to say I like Tommy before I continue is he's been so nice at Video Games Live that he stays and talks to all the fans and stuff. So when people want to shit on him and say he only has a dark side, I'd say he also has one of the nicest light sides as well. So just to clarify that, especially at conventions, a lot of times you see celebrities do a panel and they just ditch all the fans. Not Tommy. At Fan Expo, he does his panel and he stays around and he talks to every person who waits to talk to him. So I think he's got one of the nicest light sides as well. All right, so Hideout TV, it's one of those systems that'll pay you to watch videos. It's like YouTube, except they call it Hideout TV, and they split the ad revenue between the creators and the viewers. So I was thinking that'd be a great system for the Intellivision Amico if they could come up with something like that, where people could watch an Amico channel, maybe kid-friendly content on it, and some of the money goes to the kids that are watching and the creators. So that'd be kind of cool. And then what else is there? Swagbucks. It's a market research place that'll pay you to shop. And it's the same thing as Google, how they steal all your market information from your purchases. The only difference is with Swagbucks, they give you a cut of it. So if you agree for them to like go through your purchases and what is it? Sometimes they ask you a question. Yeah, for each one, if you liked it and you rate it and all that kind of stuff. But you can get some pretty big discounts. I think the highest one I've ever seen was like 5% off, maybe 10, I could be wrong. Yeah, so if you want big discounts for people taking your market research, you could do it with Swagbucks. Maybe Intellivision could incorporate that somehow. What I was thinking Intellivision should do is release an adult console and a kid console so that they can have more or less restrictions on the adult one and more restrictions on the kid one, just for interest's sake. Anyways, GameKit, this is another system that would work amazing for Amico. GameKit is a system that'll pay you to try video games. So you know that problem that Tommy said, that there's just so many games and we can't play them all and the market is flooded? Well, GameKit found a solution to that. They didn't ban people from releasing tons of games. What they do is they make lists of games that'll pay you to try them. So it's like a super good game that they know is going to be successful. They'll pay you to try it. And if you make it to like level 10 or something, they'll give you the payout. So that's one of the greatest systems I've ever seen for gaming. And the catch with it is a lot of the games they pay you to try have those in-app purchases. So that's where we really need the in-app purchases to not vanish. We just need them modified in order for them to work good. So yeah, so GameKit, that's one of the ways you can make money playing games. And you don't actually have to deposit. Like you can just play the game, make it to level 10, get paid out. Boom, you're good to go. Just don't get hooked on the in-app purchases. All right, so Free Bitcoin is a wallet system for crypto, and it's they have loot boxes that are free to open. So if you want to try a crypto wallet and you're like me, you're broke and you don't have any money to throw into a wallet, you can start opening these loot boxes and it'll start building up. So yeah, if you want to get some free Bitcoin, that's how you can do it. Well, it's technically free Satoshi. The penny's a Bitcoin. Oh yeah, and if you're not into Bitcoin, you like the other cryptocurrencies, we also got BetFury. And BetFury has all loot boxes for stuff like Dogecoin or Dogecoin, Ethereum, all those other ones. And they also have the same thing where they have casinos. So just be careful if you got any gambling addiction. Don't use the casino parts because that'll just fuel your gambling addictions. I know I'm one that knows a lot about addictions, either to hot babes or to weed or other bad stuff. So yeah, just be careful with those. Make sure you follow all your regional laws, and especially for the virtual mate sex machine. This is one thing I think would be amazing for an adult Intellivision system if they started to like release sex toys. I don't know, Tommy back in the Electric Playground days, I always dreamed that he would go that route, that he would be the person that would release the first like sex toy video game. Because man, I always thought that was like his like best attribute. He was like one of the like horny as hell guy, but tying it to video games, I thought that was a perfect combination. So not that I'm into horny guys. Just want to clarify that. So anyways, yeah, if you want $10 purchase off on 150 or more, just put in the coupon code below. It's Lying BS. That's LYNBSN. I know it sounds like Lying BS, but it's not. It's actually a real coupon code. And just to clarify, this is a real product. What is it? Virtual Mate has shipped me one, and they gave me the coupon code. All I had to do was buy the product. Gave them money, and lo and behold, they sent it to me. Right, so yeah, anyways, if ladies need a sex machine, they know who to call. This one's for adults only, and men. Alright, so let's run my vaporizer commercial. If anyone doesn't know, I started up a company and it failed and bombed, but I'm also trying to reboot it. So if anyone wants to help reboot my vaporizer company, maybe Darius wants to give it a try, if he's allowed to vaporize weed legally where he lives. Yeah, it's basically a vaporizer that's made to use potpourri. So you're supposed to just spray it into the air. But some people realize that you could also put weed in it and inhale the vapors, and it makes your weed about 80% stronger. The side effect is, obviously, it's way more addictive, and it will also raise your tolerance, so that if you try smoking a joint, you won't catch any buzz from it. It'll basically like be your new hard liquor of weed. So just be careful. Try to only use it for that purpose. If you did happen to find one of the prototypes, I gave a few of the prototypes away, and my company pretty much folded. So if you want to get your hands on it and you want to help me out, you could also check out this commercial and subscribe to the Facebook page for it or the YouTube page or both. I kind of agreed that if we get it up to 1,000 views on the Facebook page, then I'll put my time and energy again to try to get the company launched and get the last of the legal issues worked out for it as well. All right, so here's the commercial for it. Yeah, just remember the vaporizer is 18 plus or whatever your age is for smoking in your province, state, or country, wherever you live. Excuse me. Right, so let's say if you happen to get any Intellivision Amico non-physical hardware in your vaporizer and it tastes like shit, give the show a dislike. But if it doesn't happen, you can give the show a like. Really appreciate it. And just make sure you never buy the products from my sponsor,
because it will ruin your life.
Bye for now, everyone. And if you're not sure who my sponsor is, I didn't do it for today's episode, so let's do it right now. Almost forgot.
Today's Intellivision Amico information was brought to you by Crack. Crack. It'll fuck you up.
Slowest exit ever. Alright, so thanks everyone for watching. If you could like and share and sub to the channel, really appreciate it. Yeah, and don't forget to sub and to all the other Amico channels that I mentioned here before. And if you want to watch the best video game show on the entire YouTube, I recommend turning into the CU podcast. God, their show rocks. Sorry for always arguing with you guys. Hopefully you don't take it personal. I've got issues. Alright, see you later. Bye for now.